Okay, I'd like to share another fine tool, biblical tool, would be John MacArthur's little workbook. These are phenomenal. He's got every book in the New Testament on. These are a 12-week study. You can do a little bit of the homework every day. John, what he's done is just really neat. The first part of his study, okay, this one particular one's on Romans, is you've got the observation. For those of you who are familiar with inductive study, it's kind of the bird's eye view of Scripture when you're reading. It gives you the introduction, background, and then chapter 1 would be the good news. As he goes through the context and background, keys to the text, it gives you the keys and text of going through. Then you have the actual text in the book, which is yours to write in or fill in. As you're interpreting the text, the questions for interpretation are the truth for today and reflecting the text. Questions would be like the dying words of the ancient saint, Paul, grace is the only thing that can make us like God. I might be dragged through heaven, earth, and hell, and I would still be the same sinful, polluted wretch unless God himself should cleanse me by his grace. How would you answer someone who asked, I keep hearing about the grace of God. What does that mean, and why is it such a good thing? Okay? When you go through the interpretation questions, and then he's got some application questions, and these are going deeper, the cross references, and then reflecting the text. What in this study convicts you the most, challenges you the most, compels you to action the most? And then it's just a phenomenal tool as you go through a 12-week series, and you can go again a little bit at a time, or you can do a chapter a week in here. But it's a 12-week study. It's very thorough. It has proper interpretation, great observation, and unbelievable application, for living. And the takeaways are phenomenal in these books. Some of them are together, like 1st and 2nd Peter and 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. But all the other New Testament books are single books, and that read in Revelation as you go through. But he's got some Old Testament too. They're just now coming out with them. But just a super resource if you're looking for a nice study. All right. This would be, by the way, this would be good for mixed couples, all women's, all men's, and high school. It's very appropriate. Okay. This is stage 2. This is written by Ernie Larson, who's a psychologist. Stage 2, relationships, love beyond addiction. And I'm sure you were like me. I used to think alcohol and drugs were the addiction. But try things like control, shopping. The list goes on. They're all addictions. But what stage 1 is identifying your primary addiction and then letting Christ take charge of that addiction. However, the behaviors that made you go to the addiction in the first place are usually what need reconciled to God first and then to the people in your family and around you in your sphere of influence. Many of them are subconscious. What Ernie does is he explores the whys, why those things were happening in your past, how to get through them, and then the actual role playing in group type settings and getting these things out in the open, expressing yourself in a discriminate manner, not indiscriminate expression, teaching you to have the tools to dialogue healthy in all your relationships, and identifying your tendencies. As you probably know now in life, it's much better to take care of your side of the net first. It's easy to see the other side, but to take the log out of our own eye and let Jesus kind of heal it and walk us through the steps. These tools are just unbelievable. It's a small book. It has, let me see, a few chapters. 8 chapters. It'd be like an 8-week study. It's very fast, but strong and impacting. Very strong. Okay. I would say this one would be for adults on both sides, men's and advanced high school children. Okay. Another book that's pretty neat is called The White Knight Syndrome. This one's very interesting. Myself, Don Payton, we fall into this category. We used to real bad. And I'm sure many of you have the same problem at some time. The White Knight Syndrome is if you find yourself a rescuer that wants to ride up on the horse and rescue all the victims of the world, it can be kind of overwhelming after a while. Okay, you want to help so many people, but a lot of times the motives aren't right, and I think the key thing to remember is we are not God. We are God's instruments. Okay, we put skin on, come alongside, but sometimes we're so consumed by what we want to do that we're overwhelmed, and then we burn out eventually. And what this tool does is it really helps us how to have a healthy balance and see things objectively and not subjectively, because a lot of time for us it's subjectively. We see it the way we think is right or normal, and we start taking the place of God, trying to fix everything, and that's not our job. Okay, we're to come alongside, encourage, point the way to Christ, and then help where we can, but get the people independent where they can function in a healthy relationship with God and the people around them. But this one's just a phenomenal tool for us burnout people. So it keeps us right on the right edge, and it's a very good resource. I would recommend this for men's studies, women's studies, and high school, no doubt. Okay, A Heartbeat Away. I think Rick in his study did this, by Mark Cahill. My brother recently came to the Lord about 10 months ago after I had given him all kind of stuff, shared Christ with him years ago, and he heard this gentleman talk, and then he read his book. Now, my brother is a white-collar professional in the medical field. He's director of perfusion at Indianapolis Hospital. So cracking it was pretty hard. Apologetically, all the objections he had were there. But as you guys probably well know by now in your walk, the evidence is never the problem usually. It's the heart. And as Mark explores this, he raises some phenomenal questions that trigger thought and for the intellectual. As you go through, he hits some of the apologetics, the defending the Christian faith a little bit, but what's neat about it is he takes the other religions and looks at them too, okay, and the options. As he explores it, and then they get funneled down with a lack of evidence to support them, he presents the good news, the gospel, and then and after that, then what do? He supports the discipleship and proper healthy evangelism to reach out to everyone around him. Phenomenal, in-your-face book, a great study for a group, men's, women's, mixed. It's got 12 chapters. It's a 12-week study. It's very intense. You guys will love it. He is right on the cutting edge of evangelism here. Just a super, super gentleman and great study. All righty. Okay, Breaking Free. This is a very intense book. Okay, Understanding Sexual Addiction and the Healing Power of Jesus Christ. I would recommend this for a men's study and a high school boys study. I'm pretty sure this would be, it explores why the addiction happens, what makes us go that way, and why we plug into it so easy. And then as far as getting out of it, it explores the biblical reasons on how to come out of it, and then setting up an accountability system where the people you trust and you can report into, get intercessory prayer, and how to walk out of that and unisolate yourself. You know what I mean? That it's just most of the time this stuff is very hidden. It doesn't come out. It can be pornography on the internet, fantasy, masturbation, this kind of thing. But as this book goes through it, and some of the thought questions are: what do all addicts have in common? The hunt for the malnourished heart. Okay, where to find the courage to face our dark side? Wrestling with shame and grace. And the healing effect of radical honesty, especially in your accountability. And it's an amazing book. It's very intense. It's very biblical. It has huge cross-references and goes right back to it. So don't worry about that. It's solid in that regard. But just a phenomenal study. If you've never seen it, pick it up, peek at it on the internet, and see what you think. But a great resource, I would think, if you have a group that has people struggling in this area, or men's for sure studies. It's just another super resource.